KUAM News Headlines is presented by Calvo's Insurance, serving Guam for 80 years. Matson, gold sponsor of the 2018 Micro Games in Yap. The all-new 2018 Kona by Hyundai, available at Cars Plus. IP&E, fueling excellence. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it. And King's Restaurant, located in Tumon and Dedido. Always open, always local.
Ahead on Primetime, a snapshot idea gone too far? The backlash this woman received for her photo. She tells KUAM she meant no disrespect. Plus, could transfers at the police department be made following the lieutenant governor's gun incident? Chris Barnett with the update. And the battle over tax increases gets going at the Guam legislature. Hafaday and good evening. We begin with a story that had many of you calling a specific Laddie Stone image downright disrespectful. The concern forcing the poster of the image to publicly apologize. The incident, however, also brings to light the need for all to know about cultural sensitivity. Here's more. Rebecca Ray Hutton was only doing what most of us on social media do, sharing pics of herself on a fun adventure. Here she is on Saturday during her hike to San Carlos and Nimitz Hill. Little did she know, this photo, depicting her crossed legs on top of what appears to be a laddie, would rattle the community. The 23-year-old active duty service member was blasted on her personal Instagram account.
I just thought it would be like a cool picture in the moment, but I had absolutely no idea what it meant and that it was like significant to the culture of the Chamorros, and I'm just so disgusted with myself and ashamed and embarrassed that I even got up there or even thought in that moment that it would have been okay.
Early Monday morning, Pratehila Texan wrote Rear Admiral Shoshana Chatfield, calling out Hutton's post and a need for, quote, heightened cultural awareness for visitors in transit on our island home, end quote. Pratehila Texan member Maria Hernandez.
We believe that, these are remnants of our ancient past. And so we want to make sure that anybody who comes into contact with the laddie understand this sense of sacredness that we place onto it.
While Joint Region Mariana's Public Affairs Officer Lieutenant Ian McConaughey confirms cultural awareness trainings are available for every command, Hutton says she's lived here 3 years and not once learned about laddie.
Any command that comes through here in Guam does receive that training. So, to the level of what they retain, that I can't speak to. But so as part of the indoctrination training, they receive that. Joint Region Marianas and the U.S. Navy are committed to cultural stewardship. This type of behavior is not in keeping with the values of the U.S. Navy or the Department of Defense.
JRM can't comment further on what will happen to Hutton for her actions. And while she technically didn't break any laws, it was culturally taboo. Guam State Historic Preservation Officer Linda Bordalio-Uggan.
If I find this lady, I'll sit her down and tell her about how old our culture is. We go back almost 4,000 years. It's very disrespectful. Like I said, if I went to the Washington, D.C. and I sat on Lincoln's arm and showed tongue and, flip a bird, what I'm saying, the middle finger, I think they'd like it.
Hutton has since deleted the photo from her page but allowed KUAM to use it to set an example of what not to do. Apparently, she isn't the only offender. A quick search on social media, hashtag #LaddieStone or Laddie, you'll see there are others, quote, doing it for the gram.
And I just wanted to apologize to everyone and anyone I've hurt because I've been getting... I just see how upset people are, and it breaks my heart, and I don't mean to cause that kind of pain for anyone.
Pratehila Texan also urging others to see the bigger picture.
We're saying, okay, if you're upset about this one person taking a picture of this laddie, you should really be upset about the entire buildup. We're going to see a lot of destruction to our cultural sites.
In a plot twist, KUAM has learned the laddie photographed wasn't authentic. In fact, it was put together by a group of locals. That, Uggan says, is vandalism.
Leave it alone. That way, when archaeologist goes out there, it's what he sees when it's made up. Reconstructed. It's out of context.
From one teachable moment to the next, KUAM confirms transfers at GPD have been put on hold after scrutiny from the media and the legislature put the spotlight on what may have been payback for the embarrassing gun grab incident involving Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio. While we haven't seen much of Tenorio since he apologized last week, we did get a look at a holster similar to the one Sergeant Carl Cruz was using that night in Tumon. Chris Barnett has more.
KUAM confirms GPD transfers that may have been in retaliation for the Lieutenant Governor's gun grab incident have been put on ice for now. KUAM confirming planned transfers of all sergeants and lieutenants have been holstered after the cop at the center of the gun grab controversy spoke to GPD top brass about them. KUAM confirms the transfers were allegedly in response to the gun grab incident, but had to include a larger number of officers to avoid suspicion. Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio grabbed the loaded duty weapon of SWAT Sergeant Carl Cruz on July 8th at the Tumon barbecue block party after drinking what he said was 2 or 3 beers. Tenorio tried to grab Cruz's gun several times after he initially took the weapon out of its holster, and the two men had to be separated and held back after Cruz, who's also a veteran with the Guam Army National Guard, became agitated when Tenorio wouldn't back off. KUAM News confirms Cruz approached GPD management in response to the impending transfers and said transfers shouldn't take place since police officers didn't file complaints against Tenorio. The incident is now under investigation by the Attorney General's office. Adelup saying news of transfers that were planned was, quote, inaccurate, and GPD spokesman Paul Tapao said no transfers are taking place. Legislative Public Safety Chair Senator Talina Nelson wrote a letter to GPD Chief J.I. Cruz last week urging no transfers take place while the Lieutenant Governor's gun grab incident is under investigation.
We've been talking to the community and keeping our ears to the ground to ensure that, that the individuals that are involved, their rights are protected and that there's no retaliation against them.
Today, KUAM News confirms the holster Cruz was using the night of the incident is a Black Hawk Omnivore, a Level 2 retention holster in full compliance with GPD's regulations. GPD standards require officers use at least a Level 2 retention holster. While we confirmed it's not very difficult for a person familiar with guns to remove a weapon from this holster, we couldn't recreate the conditions the Lieutenant Governor removed the weapon under that night in Tumon. Sources did say the gun grab incident could have gone further south if other officers on the scene resorted to standard training to neutralize the threat of an individual trying to remove an officer's gun.
I know better than to reach for a man's weapon, let alone to try to disarm a cop, even if we are friends. You just don't do that. It's an act of disrespect. It's just wrong.
While Tenorio has apologized for his actions, saying sorry hasn't affected the status of the investigation, which is ongoing as the people wait to see whether or not justice will turn a blind eye to the overseer of public safety.
We're also anticipating the report from the investigation to come out, so when that comes out, then it will allow us to discern better on which what would be the best interest of the community.
For Guam's News Network, Chris Barnett reports.
He's charged with sexually assaulting a student on campus, but defense thinks they can discredit the victim. Bishop and Gardner Memorial School teacher Peregrine St. Nicholas appeared in court on Monday. The trial is set to start next week. Defense advised they'll be exchanging information with prosecutors that could, quote, cause the government to reconsider some of its position in this matter, end quote. Parties will return to court on July 19th for an update. Trial, meanwhile, is still scheduled for July 25th. Now to a video circulating on social media. It shows Guam police officers making an arrest after responding to a disturbance in Tamuning Saturday night. Take a listen.
Pick me up! Pick me up! Roll to my side!
Morgan Hale is charged with 2 counts of assault on a peace officer, assault, resisting arrest, and public drunkenness. Court documents state a security guard at a local bar tried to step in when the suspect charged towards another woman. The suspect is then accused of attacking the security guard and at one point biting him on the chest before police showed up. During the arrest, the suspect allegedly kicked one of the officers in the groin and another officer in the leg. Authorities note the suspect smelled of alcohol and urine. The video also shows the suspect continuously refusing to cooperate with officers as she was being taken into custody. A 40-year-old man is accused of leading police on a high-speed chase through Dededo with 2 children inside the car. Alfred Hape Hapo Elias is charged with 2 counts of child abuse along with a special allegation of vulnerable victim, reckless conduct, and eluding police. It happened along Marine Corps Drive on Friday after the suspect sped through a red light. Court documents state the driver allegedly swerved through traffic, nearly hitting other cars and pedestrians. This while apparently attempting to avoid the officer giving chase. He eventually stopped after crashing into a jungle area near Bumachachu Street. Police then spotted a 10-year-old girl and a 2-year-old boy inside the car. Both were found crying and had to be taken to the hospital for treatment. The suspect admitted to police he was recently arrested and didn't want to go back to prison. He also told authorities he didn't have a driver's license and did not want to get deported. He is accused of threatening to stab and kill a woman and her children known to him. Devin Edwin Camacho was charged with simple stalking and family violence. Court documents state the victim planned to bring the suspect food, but told him that she would be running late. That's when the suspect allegedly became irate and accused the victim of going to meet other men. It was during that conversation that the suspect made the alleged threat to kill her and her children. The pair recently ended their relationship but kept in contact. The victim told police she was in fear of her life and that, quote, "I think he's crazy enough to do it," end quote. It's Monday, so that means time for another round of D18 tonight. In our lineup, we have Democratic candidate Amanda Shelton and Republican candidate Janae Uggan. The show is completely interactive. All you have to do is tune in right here and post your comments on KUAM's Facebook live stream so we can get them to the candidates during the show. D18 tonight is coming up right after primetime. Coming up on primetime, the battle over tax hikes is underway at the Guam Congress building. And a GMH doctor calls it quits, filing a whistleblower complaint against the hospital. Details after the break. You're watching KUAM.
There are more ways to experience KUAM News than any other source on Guam. Download the KUAM News app for your Apple or Android device for 24/7 news, sports, videos, weather, streaming, KUAM radio, and important news alerts. And stay connected at home with Guam's first app for Apple TV. All available now from the App Store.
A simple handshake. That's all Jake Calvo needed when he started his company. Today, 80 years later, we like to say thank you to all of you who have taken our hand in trust. Thank you to the dreamers. Thank you to the realists. Thank you to the family-oriented. Thank you to the entrepreneurial. Thank you to those climbing the corporate ladder. And to the ones starting a new life together. Thank you to the traditionalists and the edgy. To the young at heart and the old souls. Thank you to the daring, to the protective, to the practical. Thank you to the hopeful. To all of you from all of us, our deepest, happiest, and infinite thanks.
80 years here for you. 80 years thanks to you. Calvo's Insurance, a legacy of trust.
When I was much younger, my dad told me, never forget where you come from. As a nurse, lawmaker, and a banker, I have seen the struggles that our people face. Inadequate health care, outdated government regulations, crushing government debt, the rising cost of living, record crime rates, and an economy that is fragile. All of these things affect us in a very real and personal way, and you have shared your hopes, your fears, and your disappointments. Democrats on Guam have championed policies that enable people to reach their potential. Together, we can truly make a change, restoring faith in our future. It's time for change we can trust.
I'm Lilian Guerrero, and I approve this message.
There are more ways to experience Guam via KUAM News, giving you what you want, when you want, and how you want it. From smart devices, Alexa, what's in the news?
Here's your flash briefing.
Over the web, on mobile, on streaming platforms, with immersive, interactive formats, and via social media where it's more than just content, it's conversation. More ways to keep you informed and entertained whenever you want it, wherever you are, on whatever device you're using.
A former GMH administrator who resigned last Thursday citing a hostile work environment has filed a whistleblower complaint with the Civil Service Commission. Dr. Kazuo Shimabukuro was an outspoken critic of the GMH administration and testified before the legislature blaming mismanagement for many of the deficiencies cited in a report from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. The hospital on Monday submitted its detailed response to the series of allegations by Dr. Shimabukuro. GMH denies charges of intimidation and disputed a series of claims by the doctor as false. According to an email from a union representative for Dr. Shimabukuro, she was resigned because she believed the hospital was, quote, investigating her for the purpose of termination and was also pursuing her medical license, end quote. GMH counters that when Shimabukuro voluntarily surrendered one of her medical privileges, it is required to report that to the National Practitioner Data Bank, a database that guides state licensing authorities when granting hospital privileges. The battle over tax increases takes center stage again. At the Guam legislature, a public hearing is underway on a pair of, quote, revenue enhancement bills by Speaker B.J. Cruz to help bridge an estimated $140 to $160 million government budget shortfall. Nestor Lacanto reports.
One bill proposes to raise the business privilege tax to 5.5%, another 0.5% on top of the 1% increase earlier in the year. Cruz also seeks to raise the hotel occupancy tax from 11% to 15%, a 36% increase. The bills were introduced after the legislature repealed a 2% general sales tax that was supposed to start in October.
Unfortunately, money's not floating in plastic tubs like the cocaine is floating in, or is it falling out of the sky? You know, we've got to generate revenue somehow, and the only way I know how we can generate revenue is with these small little taxes.
But there's plenty of opposition to these small little taxes. The Visitors Bureau and the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association are among those who've already come out publicly against raising the hotel occupancy tax. Meanwhile, the Speaker and the Governor find themselves on the same side. Both say because of the Trump tax reforms, increases are necessary to keep the government running. And in his weekly address, Calvo calls the tax repeal irresponsible.
These senators have manufactured a crisis with their actions. And the budget options for fiscal year 2019, provided by the Bureau of Budget Management and Research, as well as the Speaker's office, reflect the impact of their actions. At this point, I can only pray that the Speaker can bring reason to the legislature as they debate a budget for the upcoming fiscal year.
For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lacanto.
There are more signs that the Japanese tourism market may be picking up. Citing an increase in demand, United Airlines is restoring 4 weekly 737 flights between Guam and Nagoya from December to the end of March. This adds another 1,000 seats a week and 16,000 total for the winter travel season. The airline also announced it will add 2,000 seats from Osaka during October and November. This follows United's previously announced increase of 2 daily flights from Narita starting in October through the end of March using the large 777 aircraft. In response, GBB President Nate DeKnight states in part, quote, more flights mean more visitors, which leads to more jobs and economic resources, making Guam a better place to live, work, and visit. If you've been in Tumon lately, you may have noticed a buildup of green algae. The situation has prompted Gov Guam to launch a cleanup to ensure it doesn't become an even larger problem. Sabrina Salas, Matanani reports.
Carmela Cruz was one of dozens of volunteers that showed up early Sunday morning.
We're just cleaning up the sand with taking out the algae from the Maria typhoon. So we're just helping our island in the smallest ways that we can do.
It was her small way to prevent what could become a bigger problem. Brent Tibbetts is a fisheries biologist with the Department of Agriculture. The agency, along with the Guam Visitors Bureau, hosted a cleanup to remove an invasive algae known as catamorpha in Tumon Bay.
We're taking it out of the water. We're going to haul it away to a disposal site in Manila.
The agencies began noticing the invasive algae in Tumon Bay after Tropical Storm Maria blew through Guam a few weeks ago. The algal bloom spread within 100 feet of the reef. If it's not removed, it could smother coral and marine life in the bay and eventually cause a safety concern for those entering the water. According to Tibbetts, this isn't the first time they've noticed this type of algae invading island waters.
This is an algae that has been in Cocos for a few years and has been problematic down there. We want to knock it out quickly in Tumon before it becomes a problem here.
Although the agencies are hoping the community will do their part, it's not that easy to just pick up the algae and dispose of it.
If it's not in one of the preserves, I encourage them to take it out if they can. If it is in one of the preserves, give Department of Agriculture a call. It's illegal to take stuff out without a permit. We issued a special permit for this take today, and we will then, if it is a serious problem in one of the preserves, we'll be sure to get the paperwork going so that can be removed legally as well.
The Department of Agriculture plans to do a cleanup at Cocos as well, and back here in Tumon.
We'll kind of base that scheduled on tides, sun, and availability of people, but I would anticipate another one later this summer.
It's something Carmela is looking forward to and hopes others will join in.
And I'll tell my friends about it because just doing this alone, it's not enough. So we need the public to help.
Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Sabrina Salas, Matsunani.
Sports is next, but first, here's your island weather.